I believe I will go see for myself. Fans and critics alike are waiting for Pitt to say something now that he has finally spoken out after years of rumors and close attention from the media. This story goes into detail about Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston's relationship, from their short-lived romance to their public breakup. We'll talk about their public marriage, the first signs of trouble, and the start of the Brangelina story. As Pitt approaches this important birthday, we'll also look at how they handled their split and his thoughts on his time with her. Here's a close look at Brad and Jen's rapid romance, which is one of the most interesting love stories in Hollywood. There is no doubt that Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston are one of the most famous pairs in Hollywood. They fell in love a long time before they were the Brad and Jen we all loved. They met for the first time in 1994, but nothing major happened at that time. Jen said Brad was a nice guy from Missouri, just like any other guy. Let's go to 1998. Brad and Jen were both not dating anyone. Gwyneth Paltrow and Brad Pitt were no longer together, and Aniston had just finished a long-term relationship. Now this is where things get interesting. Their agents, who had known each other for years, agreed to set them up. It's almost like they knew great things were going to happen. So both of them had just broken up with famous people and were trying to move forward in their jobs when their agents set them up on a blind date. From what everyone said, there was a spark right away. Jennifer Aniston talked about that first date as being very easy and fun in an interview years later. That's not what they thought the spark would do take them on the long ride they had planned. For years, people have been guessing about Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston's relationship. Now that Pitt is 60, he is finally letting everyone know. What did they really do to each other? Is this the time we've all been waiting for? Who could have thought that the truth would be so shocking? Let's find out what Pitt has to say about Aniston now that many years have passed. We've all had times when everything just works out. That's how things were for them. Nothing awkward or strange about the silences. There was just an instant connection that made everything feel normal and easy. From the beginning, it was clear that Brad and Jen were meant to be together. It wasn't long before they spent more and more time together. Soon, everyone was talking about why they were dating. By 1999, there were stories going around about this new and exciting Hollywood romance, and fans were interested in every detail. They were seen together at different events, but it wasn't official yet. It was clear that something was going to happen. But Brad and Jen were waiting to become famous as a couple before they did. At the 1999 Primetime Emmy Awards, they finally showed up in public together as a couple. It was a big deal. Everything that had been said about them for months was true when they walked the red carpet together. Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston were all of a sudden the coolest couple in Hollywood. Everyone seemed to be watching. Then they got married. Brad and Jen at their best in this moment. It was late 1999, and they had been seeing each other for a year. Everyone was ready for Brad to ask her to marry him. It was very Brad Pitt when he finally did it. Cool, calm, and full of heart. The proposal was very sweet and private, just the two of them. There was no big show or public display, just Brad and Jen making one of the most important choices of their lives. Soon after, though, they broke into a Sting show in New York City, which was the last quiet moment. Talk about making a point. Jennifer was on stage at the Beacon Theater with her hand raised, showing off this beautiful diamond ring. The crowd went crazy. This is a great way to show that we're interested at a rock event with a lot of people there. That was a brave and fun thing to do, perfect for a couple as famous as they were. After that, there was the wedding on July 29th, 2000 in Malibu, California. It looked like something out of a movie. The wedding took place on a huge farm in Malibu, and everyone went all out for it. There are 50,000 flowers like roses, tulips, vines, and more. Blooms were all over the place. It felt like walking into a flower garden, and the whole place was romantic and lovely, just like their love story. It wasn't just the flowers that made this wedding stand out, though. There were 4 of them. 4, because why not? Their goal was for everyone to have a great time. Plus, there was a gospel group that added a soulful and positive vibe to the whole event. It was one of those events where everyone thought of everything. To top it all off, there were fireworks at the end of the night. It was the perfect ending to a day that had already been amazing. And the list of guests, as you might expect, it was full of stars. They were with all of their best friends, who were also actors, directors, singers, and more. Through and through, this was a Hollywood event, but at its core, it was still just Brad and Jen, 2 people deeply in love who wanted to celebrate their joy with their loved ones. But the vows had to be one of the most moving parts of the service. However, they chose to keep those secret, but reports say they were very sincere and that Brad and Jen promised to always have fun and make each other laugh. It is said that the whole thing cost about $1 million, but Brad and Jen's big day was worth every penny because it was the start of something beautiful. Their wedding wasn't like something out of Hollywood. It was a real party to honor love, happiness, and loyalty. Their love story was like something out of a fairy tale. Two famous people at the top of their games fall in love and start building an amazing life together. People thought they were in it for the long haul because they set a high standard for relationships. If you look back, 1998 was the start of everything for Brad and Jen. Their relationship grew into one of the most famous love stories in Hollywood history. And it all began with that one date that their friends set them up on. The two people met after both losing someone close to them. They both felt something real and special in each other. We've all been waiting for this moment. When Brad Pitt finally talks about his past with Jennifer Aniston at age 60, the truth will shock you. Do not skip any part of this video. When it's over, you will understand why this statement is the one we have all been waiting for. Marriage gets extra attention. Back in the day, Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston's relationship was the height of Hollywood bliss. They were talked about everywhere. Without a question, they were the perfect couple. From the outside, it all looked like a dream, but it was really hard to balance their crazy successful jobs with their public relationship. At the time, they were both doing great at their jobs. Jen was feeling good about her friends. It seems like Rachel Green was best friends with almost everyone. What about Brad? Well, Brad was just going through the roof in the movie business. He made great movies all the time. They were pretty much at the top of their game. You can only guess how hard it must have been to keep in touch as a couple with everything going on. That being said, they did a great job for a while. At big events, they always showed up to support each other. The most well-known was when Brad guest played Joey on Friends in 2001. It was an episode about Thanksgiving, and it was funny how his character hated Rachel. That moment wasn't just cute for fans, though. It showed that they were able to keep their personal and work lives separate without any problems. No matter where they were, they looked out for each other. But here's the thing, when you're that well-known, you never feel alone. Everywhere they went, the media was crazy about them. Everything they did, there were cameras right there to see. Do you remember the Golden Globes from 2002? It was a big deal when they walked the red carpet together in black outfits that matched. It was something everyone talked about. They even made wearing clothes that go together a fashion statement. That's how big they were. A lot of people just couldn't get enough of them. It wasn't just what they were wearing or which party they went to that interested people. Everybody was interested in what was going on behind closed doors. The people started caring a lot about their future. The rumors about whether they were going to have a child would not stop. Jen also told a lot of people about it. At one point, she even told The Guardian in 2004 that she was ready to have children. She said something like, "Now is the time you can work while pregnant. You can do everything." You could tell she was excited about the next part of her story with Brad. But because of all the attention from the media, it was hard for them to keep their connection private. Every move they made was closely watched, and fans and reporters put their own dreams and expectations on the couple. People all over the world were waiting for the next big story, good or bad. That much stress is hard for everyone, even if they are deeply in love. And you know, even though they looked like they had it all together, the walls began to fall apart. Brad and Jen did everything they could to keep things normal. They went on routine dates and spent time away from the press. But in the end, all the attention and guessing got to be too much. People were always watching for signs of trouble. And sadly, those rumors began to come true. They tried to make it work, that's for sure. In fact, it was almost impossible to have a normal marriage while being that popular. The pressure from the media, the rumors, and being in the news all the time made their relationship so much more difficult. Over time, it became clear that their marriage was being tried by things bigger than the two of them. Signs of trouble as Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston's relationship grew, things got complicated, especially when it came to going to have a child. Jen made it clear that she was ready to have kids. You know, I think you can work with a baby, you can work pregnant, you can do all of it, she told The Guardian in 2004. This made it clear that she was ready for the next step. She was excited to start that new part of their lives together. But Brad didn't seem to agree with me. Not that he didn't want a family, but it wasn't as important to him right away as it was to Jen. One of their close friends even said that Jen was really interested in having a baby, but Brad wasn't as sure about it. It was getting tense between them because he wasn't actively planning for it. Imagine having a strong desire for something and feeling like the person you're with isn't feeling it with you. That has to be hard. As things began to fall apart, Jen told the truth about what was going on. In an interview with Vanity Fair, she talked about how it became clearer how different they were. She said, "I guess we have different beliefs. You cannot force a relationship to go the way you want it to, even if that's how you think it should go." It was clear from what they said that things were going badly behind the scenes. Instead of a single argument or moment, it was about bigger, more basic differences that had been building up for a while. At first glance, they looked like the perfect pair from Hollywood. Both of them were killing it in their jobs. It was still great for Jen to have friends, and Brad's movie business was going strong with each new hit. They worked together to start their own production business, Plan B Entertainment, in 2002. There was a lot of talk in the media about their personal lives, though, behind the scenes. Jen later told everyone how all that stress was making her feel. She's always loved taking care of the people around her. She's kind and caring, you know? But she said there were times when she put Brad's wants ahead of her own, and that hurt her over time. In an interview, she talked about it and said, and then Brad's view of things began to change as well. In an interview with Parade in 2011, he said that he wasn't living the life he wanted while they were married. He asked, "Isn't that a pretty heavy thing to say?" He was frustrated and felt stuck, and it started to show in their relationship. As they grew as people and as professionals, it was clear that they were going in different ways. Brad wanted to try something new and break out of the mold he felt stuck in. Jen, on the other hand, was more focused on starting a family and keeping things in the real world. It can be hard to stay on the same path when two people are pulling in different ways. Jen thought about this a lot more after the fact. It didn't matter if it was a marriage, a friendship, or a relationship at work. She talked about how hard relationships can be. "I don't think anyone in a marriage ever feels like, we've got it, you are both changing all the time, and there will be times when those changes don't get along." In fact, that's what happened between her and Brad. Both of them were having changes. They weren't changing at the same time, though. In the end, life just pulled them in different ways. Even with all the love and work in the world, relationships sometimes just stop working. And Brad and Jen went through that. Finally, Brad Pitt is talking about Jennifer Aniston, which no one saw coming. He just turned 60 years old. Pitt is ready to tell the truth, and what he says will blow your mind. Could this change everything we thought about how they were together? You should stay until the end because what he says will solve all the questions we've been having. The story of Brangelina starts. Everything changed for Brad Pitt in the summer of 2004. He met Angelina Jolie on the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith while he was still married to Jennifer Aniston. There are a lot of stories going around in Hollywood, but this time it was different with these two. There was something going on. It was felt by many. Back then, Brad and Jen were still together, but there was a lot of talk about Brad and Angie, and to be fair, they had great chemistry on screen. Imagine working with someone and having an obvious spark with them right away. That's exactly what director Doug Liman saw from the beginning. He once said that while they were in their very first scene together, which was the couple's therapy part, they felt naturally drawn to each other. Also remember that they hadn't even practiced, it just worked. Lyman told her, "You can't fake that it's clear why people began to talk." Akiva Goldsman, the producer, agreed, saying that Brad and Angie looked great together on TV. He told them that they were both very smart, very skilled, and, well, ridiculously good looking. There were other sources besides tabloids that spread the stories. The people who worked with them also saw it. Now, while Mr. and Mrs. Smith was being filmed, Brad and Angie were sure that nothing romantic was going on. They denied it all over the place. But by the time the movie came out in 2005, it was harder for them to keep up that story. No longer were people just guessing. They were sure that something wasn't right. And it's not their fault. The reporters were always ready to take pictures of Brad and Angie having a great time together away from work. People outside of the two groups saw it as more than just a business connection. It was great for the press. It seemed like there was a new story about their relationship and the question of whether or not he was cheating every day. Naturally, people began to take sides. Do you remember those t-shirts that said Team Aniston or Team Jolie? There was a big public show and everyone either cheered for Jen or liked the whole Brangelina thing. All that attention was crazy. It was tiring for more than just the people concerned. It started to have an effect on the movie itself. Later, director Doug Liman said that the media frenzy was so bad that they couldn't even show the movie to people as a test. They didn't want any of the chaos from the tabloids to spread, so they had to skip that step. That's pretty crazy when you think about it. Too many people were focused on Brad and Angie's relationship for a movie to get a good sneak peek. Then there's poor Jen. As the reports spread, it became clear that her marriage to Brad was in a lot of trouble. All of the media interest, rumors, and helicopters following Brad around all the time was too much. Brad and Jen told everyone in January 2005 that they were splitting up, and soon after, they filed for divorce. Some people said that Brad and Angie's friendship was the real reason they broke up, even though Brad and Jen were still acting normally in public. However, let's face it, it was clear what would happen. There was no doubt that everyone knew about their love story. The press had already called them Brangelina. It was all over the news, and people were just as interested. It was like seeing a soap show come to life. That was only the start of the Brangelina story. After that, their friendship was one of the most talked about in Hollywood history. People were still interested in Brad, Jen, and Angie. Every change in their personal lives made the news for years. People all over the world were very interested in Brad and Angie's every move, from adopting kids to getting married to finally getting a divorce. In the end, Brad and Angie both said that they did feel something on the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. In 2008, Angie told the New York Times that she would love to watch the movie with her children one day because, as she put it, it's not every day you get to see the movie where your parents fell in love. It's crazy to think about how much one movie changed everything, right? In some strange way, a movie about two people hired to kill each other turned into the setting for one of Hollywood's most talked about love stories. Getting through the breakup, it was a messy and sad time for both Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston when their marriage fell apart. Brad said it wasn't easy going through the breakup. To say the least, it was a mess. He even said it was a strange time in his life. It's hard to imagine being on your own again after having a strong family life. He felt a little lost because it was like a piece of his world had just disappeared. Brad said that he didn't want to be on that trip, but he also knew that he had put himself in that situation. He didn't want it to happen, but he couldn't change how things turned out. Brad's fight with drug abuse was one of the hardest things he had to deal with at this time. He told them that since college, he couldn't think of a single day when he wasn't drinking or smoking pot. He did it as a shield to avoid dealing with his feelings. It was his way of running away from them. It became clear to him during the breakup that he couldn't keep doing that. He had to stop making himself feel better and start dealing with his problems straight on. And he did get through it in the end. And he was grateful for that clear moment. Brad also had to take a good hard look at himself as a dad and a partner after the split. He knew that he hadn't been as present as he should have been in his marriage. It was his own fault that he hadn't known how to talk about his feelings or be emotionally open to the people he cared about. It hit him right in the face during the split, making him realize he had to change, especially for the sake of his kids. He felt like it woke him up and he wanted to change. He wanted to be more open, vulnerable, and active in the life of his family. The other person was Jennifer Aniston, who was so classy about the whole thing. Even though the split was very public and she had to deal with all the sad news stories, it didn't get to her. Jen chose to focus on herself and her own healing instead of getting caught up in the bad things going on around her. She went to treatment to work through everything and find out more about herself after the breakup. She's always been honest about how much therapy helped her, saying it was a great way to learn more about herself. It wasn't something she tried to hide either. It was clear to her that putting it off would only make things worse in the long run. She instead faced it and let herself feel everything so she could heal properly. What I admire most about Jen is that she refuses to see herself as a victim. There were times when she was hurt and sad, but she didn't wallow in it. That day, she let herself feel bad about herself. The next day, she chose to own up to her part in the marriage. Being positive like that helped her get through a very tough time with her head held high. Jen still liked the time she spent with Brad, even though the breakup was hard. She didn't feel bad about getting married at all. She was even thankful for it. She thought that being married to him had taught her a lot and made her a better person. She even said she loved Brad and thought he was a great person. They had a lot of respect for the life they had shared together and didn't hold grudges. She wouldn't change a thing because it was all part of the process. Jen stayed open to new things as time went on, whether they were new relationships or just more personal growth. She didn't turn mean after her heart broke. She kept her heart open instead because she thought there was still a lot more to discover in life and in love. Brad and Jen were both stronger after the breakup was over. Brad dealt with his problems, got clean, and became a better parent. Jen gave herself time to heal, think, and keep moving forward with kindness. Their marriage may be over, but it changed both of them for the better and helped them become better people. Now is the time of truth. Brad Pitt, now 60, has finally chosen to talk about his relationship with Jennifer Lopez. What took him so long to say something about the reports and the guessing? Is their story longer than we thought? Pitt's latest statement will clear up questions that have been around for years, and what he said about Aniston will definitely make the news. Follow us all the way to the end. Looks back at 60. Brad Pitt is talking more about his past with Jennifer Aniston now that he's 60 years old. It's nice to see him looking back with such growth and self-awareness. When they broke up, everyone had their own ideas. So many news stories said it was Angelina Jolie's fault, or that it was because of the stress of their Hollywood life. Pitt now says that their split wasn't just about the outside things. There was a lot more to it than that. He finally talks about how lost he was at that time. It's possible to be one of the biggest stars in the world and still not know who you are. Brad says he was there. He talked about how he was going through a lot of emotions and feeling detached from his own life while he was married to Jen. He said something like, "I had pushed myself so far off track that I had forgotten who I was, and I couldn't make Jennifer happy while I was so lost myself." When you think about it, it breaks your heart. They were still in love with each other. Neither of them did anything wrong. It was just some heavy personal stuff he had to deal with. He also talked about Angelina Jolie, the big problem that no one wanted to talk about, and the rumors about Mr. and Mrs. Smith. The tabloids made it seem like his romance with Angelina Jolie was the last straw that broke up his marriage to Jen for years. But Brad also made that clear. He said that his friendship with Jolie grew while he and Jen were growing apart, but he is adamant that it wasn't the reason they split up. It sounds like he said, "Our relationship didn't end because of someone else. Because I didn't know what I wanted in life, it fell apart." He seemed to be having a hard time understanding himself, let alone keeping his marriage together. But this is really cute. The way Brad feels about Jen has never really gone away. He still loves and respects her a lot when he talks about her. He even called her his partner once, which is pretty big, right? Even though both of them have moved on, the connection they had clearly made an effect on him that will last, as shown by the fact that they've stayed friends all these years. Do you remember that scene from the 2020 SAG Awards? When they both won awards and met up backstage in a cute way? Everybody went crazy because they were all smiles and seemed so happy for each other. When two people who used to be together break up in public, that doesn't happen very often. This is how Jen has talked about their friendship in a cool, laid-back way. Back in 2021, she said on the Howard Stern show, "Brad and I are buddies, we're buddies, and we talk." So, no, there isn't any awkwardness or drama going on there. Since they broke up, they've both grown a lot, and it feels like they've come full circle. Brad has even said that he will always value the time they spent together, which is pretty sweet. They haven't erased the past, they've just found a way to move on with their lives while still being connected. As Brad turns 60, he thinks about the past, which shows how much he's changed. How far he's come is clear from the way he talks about his mistakes, how he dealt with the chaos of fame, and how he stays friends with Jen. After everything they've been through, it's great to see them both in such good shape. As if they were stronger, smarter, and most importantly, at peace with everything after going through it. This is the end of the movie. Thanks for seeing. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to get more. Click on the movie that comes up next to read more exciting stories.